Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And today, we're not going to have the most jam-packed show, but what the information that we do have, it is very good information. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to be talking about our plans for a one-year celebration because we're clawing our way towards that 1-year anniversary special, and don't listen to the first episode to prove it. It's not worth it.
It's not real. No reason to scroll all that way.
No,
it's a waste of time.
Yeah, there's no reason to scroll through 79 episodes to go listen to the first one. It's not worth it.
No.
Then we're going to talk about a little bit of football recruiting news. I about said basketball. I don't know why. And then we can talk about K-State's football non-conference schedule, and then finally talk about the BatCats and the wacky segment of the week. But let's first begin with our plans for a 1-year anniversary. So as the plan stands right now, we're going to do a typical episode, which comes out on Friday. And then we're going to do on that Saturday, we're going to do a 1-year anniversary live show, which will feature both of us as well as all of the Alleycats on Spotify Green Room. So if you want, I imagine that I would be the one starting the room. So follow me on Spotify Green Room at AC Edwards 00. Both of us will be there. It'll just be a grand old time talking K-State sports and just what we've accomplished in 1 year on the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. And then Sunday, we might have a special episode, which may or may not harken back to the first episode of the show ever, but not awful.
Yeah, it'll be like it, but listenable, like digestible, I suppose is the right term. Yeah. It won't make me cringe to think about it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So in other words, next Friday, we'll have a normal episode, which is our weekly recap. Saturday, we'll have a live show, time pending. I imagine it'll probably be around 7 or 8 o'clock. Obviously, again, time pending, but look around that time. We may put out a Twitter poll to see what time works best for people. And then Sunday, a special episode, which is a return to what got us started. So please be sure to just show up. We always love talking to the Alleycats. But on the actual K-State news portion of this, we have a brand new football commit from the junior college ranks, specifically Tyler Junior College. And if that sounds familiar, we have 2 other commits from there within this past recruiting cycle, And this one is linebacker Gavin Forsha. Gavin Forsha is 6'2", 220 pounds, at least according to his 24/7 page. And he actually brings a good degree of alignment versatility. In fact, if you look up his 24/7 highlights, you will be debated into thinking that he is an edge rusher. I'm not saying that's what happened to me until Connor corrected me, but
it's fair because I was about to stop watching too, and you stopped like 10 seconds too fast. Unfortunately, it could have happened to anybody. I wouldn't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, really could have happened to anybody. But he's lined up as both an edge rusher and an off-ball linebacker. He's an absolutely amazing blitzer and has one of the best motors that I've ever seen. And that's just the brief scouting report from me. We'll go in more in depth in a little bit. But what do you think of him, Connor?
I really like him. I too was a little confused at first because he was very clearly designated as a linebacker on his recruiting profile and everything we read. But then I was like, okay, well, this is literally just an edge rusher. Like his first 10 highlights were just pass rush clips. And he was listed at linebacker, but had like 11.5 sacks. I was like, okay, what's going on here? He moved to inside linebacker in the spring. I don't think he'll play that position for us, but I did like that he had highlights there because I think he's going to fit into this defense really, really well because I think he's everything that the staff's been trying to get for a while now. And it's been to moderate success. And they've really recently done a great job of getting talent specific for their scheme. He's really great in space. He's a high motor athlete and he brings good size and length to the position. He'll be playing some form of off-ball linebacker, edge rusher, something along that line. and I liked what I saw. When he did drop back, especially as an inside linebacker, I really liked his pass coverage instincts.
Yeah.
To me, it seemed that he had a knack for knowing where the ball was going before it was thrown. And also, while he's not the best necessarily at form tackle, he doesn't let go of people. And you know what? If you bring him to the ground, that's
what
fine.
matters.
Like he'll probably have to fix that because that's not going to always work on Power 5 talent. But I did like his ability to latch onto people and not let go of them in space.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a jack of all trades in that regard, while kind of also playing a relatively new position, that edge rusher. And he also had put up a crazy stat line. I mean, he had like 40 tackles, like 25% of his tackles on the season were sacks. So, which is really odd, especially for a guy of his size. He's 6'2", 220. So, you know, he's not like your prototypical, like he's not like Felix where he's like 270 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really like Forsha. However, he was not who I was expecting until I had a different image of him in my head before I watched his tape. I'll say that.
Yeah. And something that I noticed with him is, and you mentioned this in his pass coverage instincts, is that especially with linebackers, whenever they're in zone coverage, a lot of them get in the habit of covering grass, not players, which you would think that sounds really contradictory. It's like, oh, they're in zone coverage. Of course, they have to cover their zone. Well, if you're standing there just in the middle of the field doing absolutely nothing, you're contributing nothing. So if you don't have anyone going into your zone, you can drop out, play a little bit more free, and you don't strictly play your zone. And that's something Forsha understands. He understands that if he's just sitting in the middle of the field, no one's around him, he's not contributing. So he's willing to drop back a little further to cover slants. He plays like a user. He plays like a user in NCAA 14.
Yeah, he's got that Ross Elder user lurk ready to go for next year.
Oh, so. The Ross Elder user lurk in the Texas Bowl. But yeah, and I'm not sure if this is public information. Always follow KSO. We're not going to try and gank information from them because they do great work and they deserve the support. But I will say on the recruiting front that we beat out at least 3 Power 5 programs. One from the Pac-12, one that is going to be in the SEC in the future, and one that is currently in the SEC.
Yeah, the USC visit and offer is public knowledge.
Okay.
From what I've been able to tell, I'm not sure about the other two, although I've seen it be tossed. I think I may have seen it be tossed around, but I'm not going to say who just in case. But the USC stuff was definitely public knowledge. I'm pretty sure he tweeted out. I know he tweeted out the offer because he originally posted the wrong stadium in his offer.
I remember that.
Yeah, because he was offered by USC Southern California, and he looked up USC Stadium in Google Images and put in U of SC South Carolina Stadium instead, and it was pretty funny. And that's what makes me remember that. So I know that USC definitely public knowledge that they offered and recruited him pretty hard, but ended up picking the Cats instead. And this is kind of becoming a pattern recently. It's a legit Power 5 win for Chris Kleiman, Taylor Bratt and company at the linebacker position as well. Linebacker, edge rusher. So we'll give this this is a co-recruiting win for Standard and Steve Standard, linebackers coach, and Buddy Wyatt, defensive ends coach. So, I'll give both of them credit for that. Bratt as well. Although we also need to give an assist to his Tyler Junior College teammates, Kobe Savage, and I believe Justice Clemens is the other one. Yeah. So K-State is really hitting hard on getting those Tyler Junior College defensive players into K-State this year. And they put quite a few guys out into D1 as well. General Booty is now at OU.
Such a great name, dude.
It's probably going to be the immediate name champion. I think he's going to step into D1 and win the name title this year.
Dicker's gone.
Yeah, Cameron Dicker is gone. I think he's in the NFL now.
Yes.
And so that General Booty is only just arriving as a JUCO guy, which I will admit was a strange take for OU. I'm a little surprised that they took General Booty.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure what the strategy is for them there. Maybe they just really don't like Dylan Gabriel.
That's a different time that's a different conversation.
Yeah, to be fair, Dylan Gabriel's a little overrated. Like,
isn't he like 20? He's like Skylar's age, isn't he?
he's getting up there, and he's not bad at all. Like,
No,
he's
he's not.
he's a Power 5 worthy starting QB, but he's not Caleb Williams. He's not Spencer Rattler. Funnily enough, he's probably about Skylar Thompson level. If I had to compare him to previous OU QB off the top of my head with no film comparison at all, and I'll probably get flamed for this, I think of Trevor Knight. So,
Yeah.
which isn't like a bad quarterback at all. Like, Trevor Knight was a solid QB, but was he great? No, he wasn't. Like, which we're getting way off topic. With that.
Welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats. We don't pick a topic.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm a Forsha fan. It's a legit Power 5 recruiting win. The staff's done a really nice job at finishing strong recently, which I think they're finally getting their footing with Power 5 recruiting compared to FCS recruiting. And they're starting to win the battles that in the past, when they first got here, they weren't even in. And the last couple of years, they've been in and just kind of fumbled at the goal line. And they're really finally starting to find their footing here and get guys to commit and to commit quicker. However, there's more battles to be had throughout the summer. Not going to get into those today. They're not as relevant, but we'll see.
Yeah. So welcome to the family, Gavin Forsha. Sticking on K-State football. K-State football recently released their non-conference schedule. And by that, I mean the TV schedules and what time the kickoffs are. So just going over this pretty quickly, we'll give our brief thoughts on all of them. Nice voice crack, me. So South Dakota kicks off at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. That's fine. I think that's similar to our Southern Illinois game.
Yeah, the first home game is always a 6 p.m. kick, as I recall, because that's the one game that K-State gets control of, I believe, for the lower level out of conference game. Normally an FCS opponent, K-State HD and K-State athletic department, they get control on kick time, and they like to have an early season night-ish game. 6 p.m. in early September, it was going to be light for probably the first half and then get to nighttime in the second half. I'm a big fan of night games. I get that there's all sorts of arguments to be had about scheduling and whatnot, but you can't really beat the thrill of winning a big night game. Granted, this is not a big night game.
No,
this is an early season game against South Dakota on ESPN Plus, but this is pretty standard, par for the course for K-State scheduling. I managed to say a lot about absolutely nothing there, but that's all to say that this is a run of the mill start time for K-State.
Yeah, I like night games. They're fine. I just hope that this one doesn't result in tragedy like last year's FCS game.
Yeah, which it's impossible to predict, but
not again, dude. Not again.
If nothing else, we will learn if southerly FCS schools have an effect on our QB's health. Because Southern Illinois, that's year we get South Dakota. So we will learn if south directional schools.
And when's the Coyotes and when's the Salukis? So they're both types of animal dogs.
All right, we might be in trouble, guys.
Guys, I'm scared.
This is all a grand scheme to get the best backup QB in college football, more snaps. And I'm here for it.
If it happens again, not again, dude.
Not like that.
Not like this. Not like this. Anyway, now that we've finished, man, please don't come back. I hope no one ever has a reason to come back for that episode to clip that in particular.
I've knocked on wood, so hopefully not. But we'll see.
The next game is a game that is going to be very near and dear to my heart and my family's heart. It is K-State MU at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I'll probably have family coming up for this game and more than just my parents. It is an 11 a.m. kickoff airing on ESPN2. And unless you're Nathan Insero, follow him on Twitter, a good friend of the show, you hate 11 a.m. kickoffs.
Yeah, I don't like 11. I'm also really annoyed that I went back and verified. This is the fourth straight Power 5 non-conference game that we've had that kicks at 11. which that's 2 Mississippi State games. 2020, we didn't have one because of COVID. It would have been the return game for Vanderbilt, which I'm sad that we lost that game because I really wanted revenge on them for probably the worst game that was played in Snyder 2.0, which is saying a lot. And granted that some of those Vanderbilt teams, like the late 20 teens, were as good as Vanderbilt's been in their entire history.
It's not saying much.
It's not. They did make bowl games. So I will tip the hat to them while also realizing that it still wasn't much. And then you have Stanford last year. And then you have Mizzou this year, all 11 a.m. kicks against, quality opponents. Granted, Stanford was quality opponent, but Mississippi State,
they beat Oregon.
That is true. They only beat 2 other teams the rest of the year, though. And those Mississippi State teams were solid as well, especially that 2018 team with the giant QB. He was literally just Colin Klein, but not as good.
I don't remember his name.
Nick something, I think. Maybe. I don't know. He was huge. We couldn't bring him down. That was the first game where I realized that most teams were more athletic than us. Like I'd kind of seen it before where I was like, wow, this team's like really good. But normally we were able to out scheme teams, but our team was so lacking in athleticism that like they made us look absolutely silly.
Yeah.
Like the only touchdown we scored was a Wyatt Hubert interception. That was a sad
That's
game.
Tough. That is tough.
Oh, yeah, it was. But we got him back next year. And
the helicopter hit.
Yeah. Oh, that will live in infamy. SportsCenter still posts that occasionally.
Good.
Which is great publicity. But yeah, Mizzou, I was hoping for at least like a mid-afternoon game. Granted, in the September window. Yeah, the summer. That's not great. It'll be warm, but I was hoping for at least something that wasn't 11 a.m. And I get it. I do, like I get the argument for 11 a.m. games being better because then you have the rest of your day ahead of you. Alternatively, they suck and I don't like them. And we should, I don't know. There's not much that K-State can really do about this. I will say, silver lining, it is an ESPN2 game, which I was worried we were going to get kicked to FS1 again for our Power 5 non-con. So at least we're on a bigger network. So there's that for silver lining.
Which network has Gus Johnson again?
Oh, that's Fox. He does the big noon game. So
I want to hear Gus Johnson call another K-State game.
Oh yeah. Him calling our comeback against OU in 2020 was just, you can't ask for much better. Gus Johnson has called some iconic K-State games because he's called that, and then he called the
OU
double
12.
Yeah, he called OU 12, and then he also called for basketball the double overtime game against Xavier in the Sweet 16, which that's one of his all-time iconic calls, and like not even beyond even being a K-State fan. And so I'd love to get Gus back on a K-State game.
He's by far the best college football announcer. I will not be taking questions.
Yeah. And honestly, Joel Klatt is pretty good too, as the color commentator. As color commentators go, he's really good, which a lot of them can get kind of annoying, but like he's really good at treading the line between knowing what he's talking about and knowing, like telling us that he knows what he's talking about, Yeah. So I like Joel Klatt a lot, but yeah, 11, not great. Really, not great. It isn't. ESPN2 is fine though. So
yeah, I am curious who is the ESPN game though.
The ESPN game. Oh, that is a good question. Because that game is September
10th.
Yeah, it's September 10th. So it's pretty. I'm trying to think about other games that are that week.
It'd be week 2. Hang on, I can look it up. Stall.
It might be Texas Bama. That's an early guess, but I think they're on ABC. So I doubt that that's actually going to be the game that's taking up the ESPN window there. I'm going to be really sad if this is like, I don't know, like Michigan versus like Eastern Wyoming or something, which is definitely not a school. But I don't know. Another game it could be, I guess, is Nebraska OU, but I'd imagine that's going to be big noon.
That's probably going to be big noon.
So it'll be the same time slot, but it's going to be different network. So ESPN. Gosh, I don't know. ESPN at 11. Honestly, may not even be a national broadcast.
Um, it's South Carolina, Arkansas.
That's actually a pretty good matchup.
Huh.
That's a decent game. I'm not upset about that. Also, why are they playing a conference game that early?
I don't know.
You see, the reason I reacted like that originally was because I just internalized it as a non-conference game, but I then realized that it was a conference game, and it makes a little less sense because Arkansas will be good this
Yeah.
year. South Carolina will probably not be good.
I don't know. They have Rattler. They have a Rattler and Stogner.
That is true. I forgot they got Rattler, and they got what's his face from Virginia Tech, Shane Beamer.
I think it's Beamer. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they actually might be a little bit better this year, but I don't know. It's ESPN, ESECPN. So I'm not going to be too upset about that. Granted, there's an SEC school in our game, so
True.
that's probably
Anyway.
why we're on ESPN too. Actually, so
Probably. Anyway, got way in the weeds again.
yeah.
But the final non-con game is Tulane. It's a 2 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. And I'm having nightmares going back to the Nevada game, which kicked off at 105.
Yeah.
And how we were all just dying.
Yeah, that 105 kick, granted, was a throwback. I can't even imagine how giddy Bill Snyder was to hear that there was a kickoff at his preferred kickoff time. Because I'm pretty sure if he could have had his way, every college football game on earth would kick off at the exact same time. And which, granted, that's the way the Premier League does it on Championship Sunday. So there's like no competitiveness issues, but it's not really an issue in like week 1 of college football or week 3 or whatever. So Tulane at 2 on ESPN Plus. It's about what I expected. I was hoping there was an outside shot. This game might end up on like FS1 or something like that.
I was hoping maybe ESPNU.
ESPNU. I actually looked, and I think that the ESPNU game that week from the Big 12 is KU at Houston, which is
I actually like that. Wait,
I was gonna say that's an objectively better game, and I honestly would put that on a bigger network just because like that's a fun matchup between future conference opponents.
yeah, I mean KU's gonna get smoked, but
Yeah, Houston's a really good team. KU, like I unironically mean this, you should not feel bad if you get smoked by Houston because they're going to be good. But like,
feel bad if you get smoked by Duke, but
yeah, because that's a home game as well. But yeah, Houston, yeah, they were ahead of the curve. They've been scheduling all these Big 12 schools for a while. They had Tech last year, who they decimated, as I recall. I remember listening to that game on the way home
back
from Stanford. Yeah, they went down 21-0 and they scored like 42 unanswered or something.
Wait, I think it might be reversed actually.
You know what? You might be right. I think you're right. I think it was 21 unanswered for Houston and then 42 unanswered for Tech.
Yep, it was 21-38 in favor of Texas Tech. Because I remember Tech escaped non-con unscathed and then got waxed by Texas.
Right. I remember now. Yeah, I had that mixed up in my head. So sorry.
I mean, they're both red schools from Texas.
That is true. But yeah, Tulane at 2 p.m. It's going to be very, very hot. It's on ESPN Plus. This should be a good win for K-State. Tulane was not very good last season. Even though they are a G5, they're not good. They will have at least one former Cat on their team, Lance Robinson, former K-State Wildcat. He was a true freshman my freshman year. And he was one of those guys that he was in the first class of freshmen to take advantage of the redshirt rule where you could play 4 games. And he looked really promising, and he was. And ended up transferring out. And I think might be a starter at Tulane. So he got what he wanted. Yeah. So I'm not going to be upset about that. But ideally, this should be 3 dubs for K-State so they can go into, again, the Oklahoma meat grinder undefeated and then drop 2 games, have the fans run around with their heads cut off, and eventually finish like 8-5 or 9-3. So every season goes like the exact same at this point. I don't know. This will be the most vulnerable Oklahoma team in years. So if you're good, this is a great year to be playing Oklahoma on the road. Mm-hmm. And then Oklahoma State, they will probably be a step down as well.
Because they lost their DC and most of their defense.
Yeah. So They,
And Spencer Sanders is still not it. Yes, he was all Big 12, but that's because there was no competition last year.
yeah. So it's I don't know. Hopefully K-State can build some momentum in this non-con schedule. Roughly what I expected, still slightly disappointed with the times, not surprised by the networks. Again, you got to win to get those night slots, I guess.
Yeah.
And I love a good primetime game. I have some great memories of when I was young of some primetime games, most of them Texas, now that I think about it. And because there was 06 Texas, which we upset them when they were number 4 and had Colt McCoy. That was Josh Freeman's coming out party as being a quarterback with a brain.
Yes.
Because up until that point, he was without a brain. 2010 Texas, that was the declining of Texas when we attempted 4 passes and won by like 30. Mm-hmm. And then 2012 Texas was when we won the Big 12.
Yeah.
So that was completely unnecessary and irrelevant. But
you just like reliving those memories.
No, yeah, I'm just reliving that and thinking about how much I like night games and being disappointed that we're not getting many, at least early. But I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic that Oklahoma State will be a night game, especially if we beat OU and they have a pulse. That'll probably be a night game.
Yeah. All right. So that is all the football news that we have so far. Now we can move into the BatCats. And glossing over their final regular season series with West Virginia. And I do mean glossing over it because I'm just telling you the scores. We got swept 4-15, 4-15, and then 1-5. That's all I'm going to say. You have anything else to say?
No, I don't think so. Other than Dylan Phillips got the start in the final game and had the best outing of any starting pitcher for K-State.
He is Shohei Ohtani.
Yes. That is all.
that is all I have to say.
Yep. Nothing else to say about that series. Yeah. Tough.
I'm sorry if it disappoints anyone that we're not going to discuss this series in detail. It's just, what can you say when you get swept in 2 of the games were the exact same score of 4-15?
There's very little to nothing to be said, as we are proving right now.
Yeah.
Tough scenes. I am sad. So
I agree. But then that was the final regular season series, but that does not mean that we were done playing, because we were not the one school who got left out of the Big 12 tournament. LOL at KU.
Yep.
And we had the first game of the, I don't think it was the first game of the tournament, but our first game of the tournament was up against Texas Tech, who we unfortunately ended up falling to by a score of 5-3. Our stat line was 3 runs, 3 hits, and 3 errors. The scoring went, we'll talk about the errors in a second. The scoring started off in the second, which was by far our worst inning, in which there was an error, which caused a runner to score for Texas Tech, and then another unearned run off of a single from Texas Tech, and then finally another error, which, caused another unearned run to score. And then in the 6th inning, Texas Tech scored another 2 runs off of a triple, and then the Cats tried to rally in the 7th inning after Cole Johnson had a single, which knocked in Dylan Phillips. And then Kalen Culpepper had a double, which knocked in Nick Goodwin and Cole Johnson. That would wrap up the scoring for today's performance. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the errors in a second. Do you want to cover the hitters? I'll cover the pitchers this week.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Texas Tech. Dom Johnson, rough game, honestly. 0 for 2 strikeouts. Not his best showing. He really cooled off over the course of the season. Even though he still was putting the ball on the bat a decent amount, he'd just have impatient ABs a lot of the time. And it was a little frustrating because, that he is maybe the best hitter on the team, period.
Yeah.
And even especially more than even like Dylan Phillips down the stretch. Dylan was another guy who I think got really impatient down the stretch. Rougley goes 0 for as well. Does draw a walk, which will come back to usually drawing walks. And Dylan Phillips, 3 strikeouts. 0 does score a run though. I'm not sure how, because he does not draw a walk, doesn't get a hit by pitch either. Also, Cash usually did get hit by a pitch once as well. So there's that. Nick Goodwin, 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Cole Johnson, 1 for 4 with an RBI, 1 strikeout. Nikolov 0 with 3 strikeouts. Rough showing for him. Galen, he did have an impactful hit. He had a double. Nick Goodwin had doubles as well, not to neglect him. Kalen Culpepper, 1 for 3, 2 RBI, 2 strikeouts, a double. Justin Mitchell 0 Cam Musselton draws a walk and goes 0-1. And then Brady Day has 1 strikeout. Now do you want to do pitching or do you want to talk about the errors?
Talk about the errors, and that'll lead into pitching.
Okay. Yeah. So we had 3, should have been 4 errors in this game. Dylan Phillips, Justin Mitchell, Connor McCullough all registered with an error in this game. Nick Goodwin was not somehow.
I honestly think he should be credited with 2.
For
the first one is the throw that kicked Dylan Phillips off the bag. And then the second one was him failing to get the ball, which the Texas Tech player kicked into left field. That got credited to Justin Mitchell.
Yeah, because I was listening to this game. So Brian Smoller was trying his absolute best to describe the hilarity of it, but I do not blame him for being unable to articulate the deficiencies of our defense in this moment. But yeah, Dylan Phillips gets, I believe, a throwing error. Mitchell the same. McCullough gets credit with an error as well. Pickoff attempt. And which that led to the Phillips error, I believe, as well. And then Goodwin does not get credited with an error here either. He had an errant throw, which would have ended a big inning for Texas Tech. At this point, they had not scored, and this ends up leading to 3 runs for Texas Tech, which was the difference in this game. And in the Big 12 tournament, winning early and winning often is king. And if you don't do that, then you get stuck in the losers bracket like we have. And that makes winning a title as an underdog from difficult to borderline impossible. Not completely, but very hard. But yeah, 3 errors, should have been 4 from the Cats. Completely derails a otherwise solid performance from the defense and pitching staff. But one disastrous inning completely ruins any shot for the Cats in this game. So you want to get into pitching now, my friend, or have anything else you want to add to the errors? Again, I was only able to listen, not watch. So, if you have like additional like commentary to add that I was unable to, please.
This is one of those situations. I can only think of like 3 where Connor and I were not watching a K-State sporting event together. And I just texted him ranting. And while I'm like 50-50 on like if that ever gets leaked, of like I don't want it leaked and I do want it leaked because I think it's objectively hilarious. Because Connor, I think I'm not going to say who it was, but let's just say I saw a play or two, and I say if he's in the starting lineup again, I'm going to have a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in the starting lineup again, but
he was, as it turns out.
But he actually didn't have that bad a game. But
he really didn't. No, he was one of the better players. And he actually was a key player in the second game. I would say one of the biggest factors in the game.
Yep, he was. But anyway, Connor McCullough had a pretty good performance, just wiped away. He ended up going 6 innings, giving up 8 hits, 5 runs, 3 earned. I honestly think that probably all of the runs in the second shouldn't have been earned. So 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 balk, which even the announcers were like, what is a balk anymore? What is Walmart?
What is it?
But yeah, so he ends up getting pegged with the loss here. It's just another performance where Connor McCullough's back died for his defense to just die with him. It's
Yeah.
just it's unfortunate. But Blake Corsentino did come in and gave us 2 innings of no hit ball with 5 strikeouts and 1 ground out. So
Yeah.
Corsentino did great.
The staff, the pitching staff, that is, they did absolutely everything they could for the most part in this game. I'm not going to really be that upset with them.
No.
Um, it's yet another situation where half of the team or like half of our defensive unit plays quite well and the other part doesn't, or I should say one part plays well, one part doesn't, where sometimes the field is really good and the pitching staff just blows up. And but although a lot of times it's the opposite, where McCullough, 6 innings pitched, 3 earned, 8 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He had a Connor McCullough game. He was solid, very, very composed. And then Corsentino, absolute nails. He came in, he was very impressive. And the limited action that we saw, 5 strikeouts, very aggressive but smart pitching. He every pitch he made, it was the exact right pitch for the situation, and I was really pleased with how Corsentino looked. But again, there's just more defensive blunders from the field, especially the infield, and sometimes when it rains, it pours. I'm not going to harp on it for too long,
Yeah.
but it was rough to listen to, really frustrating, especially when all of this happens with 2 outs in the second inning. And it's game changing. It's literally game changing. 3 runs exist as a result of that. Those 3 runs don't exist, and assuming everything else stays the exact same, the Cats win by 1, and they're in the winners bracket playing Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So.
But that's unfortunately it's not what happened. So we ended up playing in the losers bracket against West Virginia. Now, if you paid attention about 15 minutes ago, you know that we got absolutely waxed by West Virginia in the regular season series. But that didn't happen this time. Your Kansas State Wildcat and Cats ended up winning this game 8-5, knocking West Virginia out of the tournament and keeping their own lives alive. Ended up winning by a score of 8-5. K-State had 12 hits, and notably West Virginia had 3 errors. In terms of how the scoring went, it started off in the first inning. K-State jumped on them early. Nick Goodwin ended up scoring Dom Johnson with a double, and then Dylan Phillips ended up scoring Nick Goodwin with a single. Then in the second, Cash Rugeley ended up walking, which advanced Kalen Culpepper to the plate. Not to go unanswered, West Virginia decided to tie things up in the third with a single, and guess what? A single.
Yeah, a lot of small ball from West Virginia, and they tied it up. This had me really, really nervous because I was worried that we exhausted our bats and our luck at the beginning of this game.
Yeah.
But I always worry when we peak early in games because we always have our one big BatCat inning.
Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh. I hate having him early because then you have to hold off the other team the rest of the game. So.
But we ended up rallying again. And in the 5th inning, we ended up scoring off a Justin Mitchell single, which advanced Dylan Phillips to the plate. And then in the 6th, Dom Johnson hit the lone home run of the day, which was a solo shot. And then Dylan Phillips ended up singling, which scored Cash Rugeley. And then in the 7th inning, Cash Rugeley again walked home a run, which scored Justin Mitchell. Whereas in the 7th inning, West Virginia scored off of a double. And then in the 9th inning, there was a suicide squeeze play in which Rafael Pelletier ended up scoring Josh Nikoloff. And then West Virginia would put on a garbage time run in the 9th inning. And that led to West Virginia being eliminated and the Cats getting at least one more dance down in Arlington.
Yeah. I got to watch this game. Blake Adams had a very impressive start. I won't get too far into his stats, but he looked composed. He went a lot deeper than I thought he was going to. I think we left him in a little too long, but ultimately it really didn't hurt us that badly. He went 6 2/3. I was thinking he'd go 6, especially with his pitch count as high as it was.
Yeah.
He ended up at like 120, but the bats were really good. 12 hits, and everybody was making really good contact, and they were making good contact early, which was a key. Dom Johnson, he was probably player of the game. 2 hits, an RBI, had a home run, 2 walks as well. He was intentionally walked twice, I believe, was what happened. and he was phenomenal. Perfect leadoff game. Had one strikeout, but it was in like the top of the ninth inning. So,
Yeah.
Oh well.
Irrelevant strikeout.
Yeah. If Dom Johnson's not your player of the game, then it's probably Cash Rugier. He drew 2 bases loaded walks, and I think both were full counts.
Yes, they were. Both were full counts.
Yeah, the second one was so clutch. I was really pleased with Cash Rugier. We haven't seen a ton of him this year. I'd imagine he probably got hurt at some point because we did not see him for a while. But he looked very composed at the plate. He only had 1 hit. They did have 2 RBIs from those walks, only 1 strikeout. And when the ball's coming off his bat, it was popping. It was really popping. Although I will say his 1 hit, I think, was like a bloop single.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny. For all the power he had, he was just a little bit ahead of the pitches. Brendan Jones was a defensive sub. Nick Goodwin, he did not have the best day, but he did make his damage early. He had an RBI double, I believe, in the first inning and went 1 for 5 the rest of the day, 1 strikeout. Dylan Phillips actually had a really nice day. 3 for 5 with a run, 2 RBI, and 1 strikeout. Cole Johnson had a difficult day, though, at the plate, 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Kalen Culpepper, who I went and checked this because I think the announcer said something about it, and I confirmed it, that he is, of the regular starters, hitting better than anyone on the team in Big 12 play. He's hitting 324 as it stands right now against Big 12 players, which is better than he was doing against non-conference teams by a lot because his season average is about 280 right now. But against Big 12 competition, that goes up by quite a bit. So Kalen, he's been really, really great this year, and it's been a pleasure to watch him develop into the player he is. He's such a stalwart defensively. He had like a 2-error game against Texas Tech on the road,
and that was it.
That was like his only bad moment as a defensive player. He's going to be a kingpin in this infield and a staple of the batting order going forward. Josh Nikoloff, he had a very rough couple of days, but he kind of put it together near the end of this game where he ends up going 1 for 3 with a run, a walk, and a strikeout. Justin Mitchell, he went 2 for 3 with a run, a walk, and a strikeout. Actually, no strikeout. Scratch that. Then Orlando Salinas came in as a defensive sub, and Rafael Pelletier 1 for 3 with a huge sacrifice bunt. I will say, like, we bunt a lot as a team. This was probably the first time that we used it truly effectively in a perfect situation.
Yeah,
we got a runner on base, and then Justin Mitchell, who I will say,
never seen him bunt.
Yeah, I've never seen him bunt before, and he laid down a perfect bunt. He is so slow. I'm sorry, Justin, if you're listening.
So
you do not have wheels, and he laid down an absolutely perfect bunt and nearly reached. Any other human being on our baseball team reaches on that bunt.
I thought you were about to say any other human being on earth.
That is not true. He's probably faster than me. So, I'm talking a lot of smack on him, but he laid down a great bunt. And then Pelletier, he comes in and then he lays down another great bunt and advances Nikoloff. And
later lays down a perfect suicide squeeze.
Yeah. Which I'm realizing I mixed things up in my head because he was the one that laid down the squeeze. That was the same bunt I was talking about. But yeah, it was a perfect example of situational bunting because not only did we get our 1 run around and understood our mission for that inning, get a guy on base, advance the runner, get him home, sacrifice those outs for that run, because that took us from a 7-4 lead to an 8-4 lead. And it made it to where, okay, West Virginia, your 3-run homer is not going to do it. You have to hit a grand slam against us, and you're not doing that at Globe Life Field. And so it was great situational management from P. Hughes. It feels great to say that. And
my God,
it's a relief to say that. I would honestly say it's some of the best managing I think that we've seen from Pete all year. The only knock you can really give on him managing this game is that he probably left in Blake Adams a little bit too long, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Speaking of, I have pitching stats. Blake Adams gets credited with the victory. He goes 6 2/3, giving up 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, 2 wild pitches, 1 hit by pitch off 118 pitches. And really, he was stealing for like 98% of the game that he was in.
Yeah. Yeah. He was so good. He was so good. And everything was working for him. I mean, he was getting strikeouts late, even he for the first 2/3 of the sixth inning, he didn't actually look tired. Or I guess it was the seventh inning, I suppose, at that point.
Yeah, going into the seventh, he looked fine, and then the last third hit, and it hit him all at once.
Yeah, but P got him out quick, so we got Tyrell in, who was able to clean up everything. So,
speaking of, Tyrell goes 1 1/3, giving up 1 earned run, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, and then guess who's back? Dylan Phillips comes in to collect his customary save, where he pitches 1 inning, 1 strikeout, and 1 flyout and 1 ground out each. 12 pitches to put away the game and let the Cats advance.
7 saves on the year for Mr. Dylan Phillips.
Of course.
The king of utility. He's the ultimate Pete Hughes player, I would say.
Yeah, what else can you really say?
However, who's going to replace him as the guy to come in from playing in the field and just step on the mound out of nowhere?
I don't know. We have 87 outfielders / pitchers. We have someone somewhere.
Yeah, surely somebody can pitch on this team that plays a position. Will Brennan used to be that guy who's killing it in Double-A right now. And
Caleb Littlejim.
He did a little bit of that as well. No pun intended. And then Dylan Phillips, I'd imagine he's getting drafted this year.
Oh yeah.
So he'll probably be gone. So somebody's gonna have to step up and take over. Maybe Kalen can pitch. It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me at all, honestly.
Maybe it'll be somebody like really random, like Orlando Salinas, or like it'd be really funny if it was like Pelletier, like he's like catching, and then we just like have him take off his catcher's gear to close. Like, for one, I don't think that'd be possible because I think his legs would be too tired from like being a catcher, but it'd also be very funny. Just like watch like P like tap his wrist and just look at Rafael Pelletier, and he'd just be like, "All right, coach.
All right, whatever.
Let me take off my
catcher's gear.
I just step up on the mound."
Like he just takes off his catcher's gear and starts dead sprinting to the bullpen.
What would be even funnier, I'm now thinking of, is if he didn't take off his catcher's gear, just pitched in that. Yeah, I've just realized that. I was making this whole scenario about like, oh, it'd be funny if he took it off, but it'd be even funnier if he didn't. So,
right. So K-State gets at least one more game in the Big 12 tournament, and they're playing the loser between Texas Tech and Oklahoma, which has yet to go final, I believe.
That is correct. I will check the score.
Yeah. So,
it will be irrelevant by tomorrow. Like something could have happened to change it, but we'll see. As of 2 minutes ago, it's a 5-1 lead for Oklahoma.
Okay. So we've lost to both of these schools.
Yeah.
Quite handily.
OU more than Tech, surprisingly.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Obviously, we're in a situation where our back's against the wall. So we're quite literally fighting for our tournament lives here. Not the NCAA tournament. That ship has sailed. The Big 12 tournament.
The Big 12 tournament, which if you win that, then your NCAA tournament dreams are back.
Yeah.
So,
which, hey,
that is that is the only path forward. Because I mean, the Cats are a 500 team. Like, so the only way to get in at this point is going to be wading their way through the losers bracket. They're going to have to beat someone at some point. They're going to have to beat them twice in a row. And then they're going to have to do the same thing, I think, in the championship.
Yeah.
At this point, they're going to have to win like 6 games in a row.
Yep.
Which,
got to get hot at the right time.
Best of luck.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up all of the K-State news. And now welcome this week to this week's wacky segment of the week, where our task and question for this week is we are going to be picking one school from each Power 5 conference to knock down to a Group of 5 conference, and one Group of 5 school from each Group of 5 conference to bring up. So we'll go through alphabetically, starting with Power 5 conferences, and we'll start off with the ACC, or the Atlantic Coastal Conference, or is it the Athletic Coastal Conference?
Atlantic
Coastal Conference, the ACC. So for me, the obvious pick here for who to demote to a G5 level. And keep in mind, this is only for football. Nothing else matters. They can stay here if they want for any other sport. This is only for football. For me, the obvious choice, and although there are two contenders that I see here, the obvious choice for me was the Duke Blue Devils getting demoted to the G5.
Yeah. It's hard to argue against that take. So I'm gonna agree with it. I'm gonna try and make different picks than you. There's gonna be some that are just too obvious, especially for the demotions.
Yeah.
So although the American Conference will get very interesting. So
Oh yeah. Oh, and we can't bring up any of the new Big 12 schools.
Yep. So that will make it a little bit more interesting. Yeah, Duke, I think they've got to go from the ACC. Obviously, they're a basketball powerhouse. They have been for a while, but I mean, last year they were 0-8 in conference play, 3-9 overall with a win over KU and I think some FCS schools, which that's not going to hack it. There's other candidates. Georgia Tech, granted, they're honestly on a bit of an upswing because they were really bad for a few years there.
Yeah.
But they're trending not downwards at minimum, I guess. Boston College, they've been pretty stagnant for a while. Florida State's been on a downward spiral for a bit. Syracuse has not been good for a bit either, but Duke, I think, is the obvious pick ahead of any of those schools.
Yeah, Georgia Tech was the other one that I was considering, but I think Duke is the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Then for the Big Ten, this is another one that I don't feel like we'll get a lot of pushback for. I don't think we'll get a lot of pushback until we get like the Pac-12 and then the group of five. But the one that I'm demoting from the Big Ten, it has to be Rutgers, because Rutgers, first off, just doesn't fit into the Big Ten. I've never believed that they fit there. And they've been so bad for so long.
Yeah. They have improved marginally. They got to play that faux bowl game because someone wasn't able to. And they made it because like APR or something like that.
Yeah.
And they lost. I forget who they played. So I think it was a G5.
I think it was Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it was Hawaii that ducked out.
Yeah. But they, because there was a big string of schools that were saying COVID reasons for not playing their bowl game. And then there's really just like opt outs and stuff like that. And they just didn't want to do it. Cowards. Yep. UCLA, chief cowards.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. Rutgers is a good pick. Indiana's a sleeper pick, but they only had this one bad year last year. They were fairly good, granted COVID Mickey Mouse season.
Yeah, and Penix was injured this last year.
Yeah, that is true. He was hurt all year. But Rutgers, they went 5-8, probably a bit deceptive with that record. That's 3 non-con wins, only 2 in conference. Just not a very good program. And then, like you said, they don't fit the Big Ten. Like they never really have, in my opinion. They're only there to bring the New York market, and they don't really do that much. Like New York's not really a huge college sports town. There's too many pro franchises there to also stabilize multiple college teams. So
yeah. Maryland was in contention for me.
Same.
But I feel like the obvious answer is Rutgers. The Big 12, I'm not going to spend any time on this. It's KU.
Yeah. For a football only list, I think KU is the only pick that you can make.
Yeah.
Moving on. We could harp on this for a while. There's no reason to. So
yeah. For the Pac-12, this was actually it wasn't probably. This was the most difficult conference to determine who we were going to send down. I think this is going to be the first time that you and I are going to disagree, because I'm sending down Arizona, because Arizona has been dog water for the past like 3 years.
Yeah, they have. Arizona was a tempting pick, but I was unable to roll with them in this situation. I'm going to say Cal, because
really,
yeah, I don't know what it is, but Cal at no point, sans the Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn Lynch years, has been a threatening school in my lifetime. And they had Davis Webb, I guess, for like a year, and they were okay. But last year they were a team that went 5-7, honestly outperformed for like
expectations.
They overachieved at 5-7. Washington, they're probably going to bounce back. Stanford is like kind of a sleeper pick, but like they've been relevant, like very relevant, very recently.
Yeah.
So I can't, they're not quite to like relegation zone yet, but Oregon State was another school I had on my mind, but they actually had a pretty good season last year. And I have a bit of a soft spot for Oregon State. I don't
Yeah.
know why. Every
Them and
conference has,
Washington State.
yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah, Washington State, but Oregon State is another school that I have a bit of a soft spot, even though they knocked us out of the super regionals back in 2013, and we definitely should have beat them. But in baseball, that is. But
Yeah.
yeah, Cal is my pick.
All right. For the SEC, this is another one where it's really obvious. Vanderbilt, I'm sorry. You got to go.
Vanderbilt, shame. Could happen to anybody. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, really. That sucks. But
Yeah,
now,
I have nothing to add.
yeah. Now for the schools that we're bringing up from Group of Five conferences. And again, new Big 12 is excluded. So we can't bring up Cincinnati, Houston, or UCF. Sorry, I forgot about it for a second.
Yep.
So let's start off with the American. And honestly, the American is the most tempting for me because they have two schools that I'm really looking at that could move up, and that is Memphis and SMU. And I'm not going to say where they would go because that would be another like 30 minutes onto this episode, and I'd rather not make another realignment episode and doom everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We should probably have like a gag order on ever talking about realignment.
Yeah. God. But the pick that I'm going to go with might surprise some people, and that's going to be SMU. I think SMU coming off of the death penalty and just how fast they've kind of swung back up, I think that's admirable. And honestly, I think that they're worthy of moving up to a Power Five conference just based off of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick SMU. I'm picking Memphis, which was the other option.
Yeah.
I must give them credit for pumping money into the Liberty Bowl and fixing the worst stadium in major college football.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be rewarded for making that move. Granted, it was an obvious one, but they're actually making substantial renovations to the stadium and going to make it actually playable. But yeah, SMU is a tempting pick, but Memphis, I have to give the edge.
Conference USA. This is one that I have, again, it's another one where I have two major competitors. It's University of Texas San Antonio and Western Kentucky for me. And if I pick either of them, it is almost exclusively because of the success they had last year. Because honestly, you look at everyone else in CUSA, I think the best school that's been like consistently has been UAB, and they've just kind of been all right.
Yeah. And they also nearly shuttered their football program. So stability is a concern.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go with the University of Texas San Antonio just because that's where Dimmel's at, right? Or is that
That's UTEP. He's at UTEP.
Yeah. Okay. That's not why I was picking them. But UTSA honestly has put a few players into the NFL, Marcus Davenport being the prime example. And they've honestly been on a pretty solid upward trajectory these past few years. I mean, they had a nearly undefeated season. I think they only lost one game and ended up winning CUSA.
They went 12-2.
12 because they lost their bowl game.
Yeah, they did. They went 7-1 in conference play.
Okay. Yeah, they ended up having a great conference season. And I think they're worthy of being moved up. And both of my picks so far have been from Texas.
Yeah. I'm gonna roll with UTSA as well. Have a bit of a soft spot for them, just because of Mr. Hurricane's dynasty he did with them back in the day.
And guess what's back?
The UTSA dynasty is back. And he's playing K-State because he put UTSA in the Big 12.
What if he just skips that game?
He would.
Sorry, guys. The footage got corrupted. Also, K-State's not in the Big 12 anymore.
Yeah, I actually found a way to delete them from the game. Also real life. But
replace them with Kalispell.
Okay. Anywho, yeah, UTSA is my pick. Although that is a bit of a trendy pick. UTEP, I was very, very tempted by. Just because it's been a very slow but consistent build from Dana Dimmel there. So I like what he's doing there, but for now the pick is UTSA, but that could change.
Now the Mac. If I could honestly, I don't want to be mean, but if I could just like take the Mac and just give their slot to like Memphis or Western Kentucky, I would.
The MAC is one of the only constants in college football. Every school that's in the MAC is very uniquely built for the MAC, I feel like. And they're one of the only conferences that's really stuck together because I think they realized that going up or down, they'd suck anywhere else.
Yep.
And they, or the very least, would not fit. I shouldn't say it'd be bad. But yeah, it's a unique conference, a very unique identity, having their like midweek games on Maction. But
Maction Wednesdays, boys.
Maction is so fun while also being absolutely horrifying because you just watch the players that they have, and sometimes you see a receiver make a one-handed unbelievable catch that you'd see in the NFL, and other times you'd see a QB that wouldn't be eighth string on a Power 5 roster, and they will go like 3 for 20, but their 3 completions will be perfect 50-yard dots.
Yeah.
So the MAC's a strange place.
It honestly probably is my favorite conference to watch, or my favorite G5 conference to watch, just because of the pure chaos.
MAC does stand for Mid America Chaotic. So
yeah. But honestly, I looked at every single team on this roster and I could make a pretty convincing argument for them moving up, except for like Akron.
Akron is, well, they're still constant. They're just constantly terrible. And yeah, but they're like the only team that I feel like hasn't at least rotated to being like pretty solid at one point in the MAC in recent years. Like they're perpetually the worst roster in NCAA 14 by a lot. And we'll see if that continues, I suppose, in the next one. But yeah,
I suppose we will. But my pick is actually going to be the Central Michigan Chippewas. And the reason I say that is because they had 2 offensive linemen drafted. They had both of their tackles drafted this last year. Luke Godicke and, who's the other one?
I cannot remember.
Anyway, they had the other tackle as well. I think he was the better of the 2 tackles. So that's kind of embarrassing. But ended up beating MU and were pretty solid all throughout their game, all throughout their years, just with a pretty good running game. So honestly, I'm going to go with Central Michigan Chippewas. And the other contenders for me were Western Michigan because they gave us Sky Moore, and then Buffalo because they've been pretty consistently one of the better schools in the MAC. But that was under Leipold. You never know now.
Yeah. I like Buffalo. Central Michigan, I almost picked because, as I recall, they had a pretty big upset of Oklahoma State a few years ago as well. On like the final play of the game, they had like a Hail Mary get completed to somebody, and they end up beating Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State, and a really weird upset. But my pick is Northern Illinois.
Really?
They've been one of the only truly good teams that's remained good in the MAC. I'd say you could make an argument they're the only consistently A tier MAC team, where all the other schools are constantly rotating. Central Michigan is probably the higher upside school, but Northern Illinois has been competitive for over a decade. They had a Heisman contender as well for a little while back in like 2013. And so I guess I'm rewarding them with being the one school in the MAC that consistently has a pulse by giving them this promotion. But there's nothing wrong with Central Michigan, and I would definitely not be upset if they got a Power 5 invite somehow. That's not happening, but if it were, they'd definitely be deserving. But no one's leaving the MAC. They're bonded by battle
together.
Yeah.
So now the Mountain West, which again, I see 3 contenders here. Actually 4.
I was gonna say, yeah, I see more than that. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5.
Okay, who are the 4 you're looking at?
The 4 are San Diego State,
yes,
Boise State,
yes,
Colorado State, Fresno State.
Okay. Swap out Colorado State with San Jose State for me.
That was my 5.
Okay. Oh, this is actually tough. You know what? I'm gonna go with San Jose State because they had like the best defense in college football last year, and they've been building that for a very, very long time. Okay, best statistical, or one of the best statistical defenses. I'm not sure if they were like you line them up against Georgia. I'm not sure they're beating them, but
Well, you don't know that. Anything can happen.
true. And they've been pretty consistently good these past couple of years. And I'm mostly just rewarding them for the defense. Boise State's the obvious pick.
Yeah.
Fresno State's the sleeper pick. San Jose pick is the comatose pick.
Yeah. I'm absolutely torn because Boise State, like you said, they're the absolutely obvious pick because they have been they've arguably been a Power 5 team in a non-Power 5 conference for quite some time. San Diego State has been up and down, but when they're up, they're up. And because I mean they finished ranked in the top 25, went 12-2 this past season. Really, really, really impressive team. I'm gonna just say Colorado State though, because I'm very selfish in that if they went Power 5, they're going to probably join the Big 12. They're a great culture fit. And I selfishly think it would be really fun to go to Fort Collins because Fort Collins seems really pretty. Colorado's a really nice state. And that'd be a fun road trip every 2 years. So that's my pick. If I were making an actual informed pick, I'd probably say Boise State, but that's not the point of this exercise. So
Yeah,
I
that
would
is
play by my own rules.
Yeah, this is the wacky segment of the week, not the sensible segment of the week.
That is a great statement. I'm going to get that framed.
And then the final one is the Sun Belt. And if you know anything about me, it does not matter who else was in this conference. I looked at one school and I said, that is my pick to bring up. You can say it. You can say it for me.
It's Coastal Carolina.
It's Coastal Carolina.
He's picking Coastal. And I'm going to not pick Coastal for that reason, just because I know that you really like Coastal. Because there's like, because Appalachian State, whatever, they also have been really, really good these past few years. They have had the best transition from FCS to FBS out of anybody, I would say, because they did not skip a beat. Ever since they beat Michigan, that team has just like been on something. Like, and that was like 15 years ago too. And
it's in 2007.
It was because that was the craziest football season of all time.
Shout out KTO.
Yeah, but it's a great channel. But Louisiana, they did have a great season last year. They went 13-1. But like, I need to see it from them consistently before I'm going to promote them. Appalachian State gets my vote, although Coastal is a close second. I really like Coastal and I like what they're doing, but I want to see them do it without Grayson McCall and for a long period of time, like Appalachian State has done. So I guess I'm giving benefit to seniority here with Appalachian State, but
yeah. If Coastal Carolina lost their offensive coordinators, my vote would immediately change.
Now I do think they lost one of them to Nebraska, but I thought one of them went to Nebraska, but I think they still have the other, which should be fine. They keep
Willie Corn?
No, I think Nebraska got Willie Corn. I thought they did.
No, they got Mark Whipple.
Oh, where's he from?
He's from Pitt.
I think Nebraska thought they were going to get Willie Corn, which of course they did, and they were really optimistic, and then it didn't happen. I think that was just a big rumor, and I just forgot to actually go back and confirm who they got. So
they got Mark Whipple from Pitt.
Cool.
Which, like, yeah, sure, put Casey Thompson in Pitt's offense. He's probably going to be fine.
I mean, he was probably going to be fine last year as well, and he was okay.
He's fine.
Yeah. Like Casey Thompson's an all right quarterback. He's going to be an okay quarterback in most systems, honestly. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, that's all I had to say about that. But thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to contact the show, you can follow us on Twitter at Aggieville Alleycats. That's capital A, and capital C, and cats. If you want to email us, we are aggievillealleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at AC Edwards.
I am at Connor Baltzor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show in a financial sense, please be sure to visit the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, where you have such designs as Play Sandstorm Cowards, Doomtang Clan, and Neon Alleycats. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.